Welcome back to TDN Live. I'm your host, Mario Verde. I'm joined once again by Rush to Crush Monday. It's time
Thanks for having me back, Mean Green.
Good to be back. I'm glad to have you. It's on to the Beasters and Sleepers portion of the program. Starting right off with the quarterback position. I believe Matt Schaub is going to beast this week against Buffalo. He's the top fantasy scorer thus far, and I look for him to put up at least 300 yards and 3 touchdowns versus a stifling Buffalo defense.
Alright, I got my beast. I got David Garrard. He's going up against the number 32 ranked pass defense. They're giving up 310 yards a game, and they give up the most touchdowns in the league, 19 touchdowns. So I'm going to go with David Garrard.
All right, on to the running backs. I like Matt Forte against Cleveland. Cleveland has proven that they can't shut down anything. I look for Matt Forte to have at least 100 yards on the ground and possibly 2 scores.
I'm going to go with Steve Slayton. The defense that he's going up against Buffalo has given up 10 runs of 20-plus yards, and they're the worst run D in the league.
Wide receivers, Miles Austin. Going up against Seattle, over 100 yards, a handful of catches, and 1 score.
I got Vincent Jackson. The defense is going up against is giving up 20-plus yard receptions. Him and Rivers have seemed to come together and get some chemistry here in the last couple weeks. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Vincent Jackson.
Tight end. I like Gates against Oakland. Look for him to get a bunch of receptions across that middle and possibly a score.
Jeremichael Finley, not a real popular name, but going up against a Minnesota team that he scored 31 points on the last time they were out. Minnesota has trouble stopping the tight end, and they have given up 27 plays of 20-plus yards.
On to the linebacker position. I like Will Witherspoon against the Giants. We had a great game last week. I think it's going to be a tough NFC East divisional game, but I think Witherspoon's going to have a ton of tackles.
I got Brian Cushing. He's been pretty steady, pretty solid this year. Rookie player, kind of surprised some people. Buffalo is going to try to run the ball, seeing as how they can't throw the ball. And you look at guys like David Harris put up 30 against Buffalo, and Barrett Root put up 21. So I think he's a solid play there.
All right, on to the D-line. Justin Tuck against that Philadelphia offensive line. He's going to be matched up against Winston Justice, but look for him to have a big game there.
Well, let's hope not, Mean Green. Go Birds. On my defensive line, I took Robert Mathis. He's got 5 sacks so far this year. San Francisco is giving up 18 sacks this year. They've got a second-week starter, Alex Smith. I see 2 sacks from Robert Mathis to go along with a couple tackles.
All right, cornerback. I got Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie of Arizona going up against Jake Delhomme, who seems to mistake the defense for offensive receivers and has thrown 15-plus interceptions this year. He threw 3 last week. Look for Cromartie to possibly get a pick there.
Okay, well, since you took Cromartie, I'm going to go on the other side of the field there, and I'm going to take Antrell Roll. Pretty much the same reason that you're taking him. Jake Delhomme could throw picks in his sleep. On
the safeties, where I have Antrell Roll. He's a swing player. For those of you not paying attention, he's also corner and a safety. Can be played either way. So I'm going to go here at safety, Antrell Roll, for the same reason I'm picking Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. Jake Delhomme's going to throw some picks this week. Why he's still the starting quarterback in Carolina and why Carolina hasn't moved on to somebody on their bench that I know of that might be able to do something, A.J. Feely. But anyway, that's just the way it is. Delhomme's still going to be throwing picks, and I think Rolls might be the receiving end on one of those interceptions.
Moving on with me, safety, I'm going to go with Antoine Bethea. Alex Smith is going to have some trouble with that secondary.
All right, real quick, I'm going to throw out some kickers and special teams because my guests don't like to pick kickers and special teams because they're practically worthless in the fantasy realm. But I'm going to throw a guy out there, Nate Kading versus Oakland. I think San Diego is going to put points on the board. And my special teams, the Cleveland Browns, because I think that's the only way they can score points is on their special teams, like the only bright side to the Cleveland Browns team. All right, moving on to sleepers. Not much out there on the waiver wire, but if you need somebody to plug in this week, here's a couple guys that we think might be able to plug in and play. At the quarterback position, I have Chad Henne going against the Jets. I don't think Henne's going to be too effective. Maybe 10, 15 points, might throw a touchdown, but looking at what's out there, he's the only viable source, I think, a quarterback to plug in.
There's really nobody out there, and if you got to go with someone, you might as well go with Chad Henne. He actually put up 31 points against the Jets last time they saw him, so, you know, if he can get maybe half that, it's better than nothing.
Right on. On the running backs, I have Tim Hightower here versus Carolina. He's sharing carries with Beanie Wells, but he seems to get most of the touches down around the goal line. Going up against Carolina, I could see him possibly getting into the end zone once, maybe twice. 15 to 20 points possibly there.
Darren Sproles, they're going up against the Raiders, who the only team they played well against this year was the Eagles, and they're giving up a ton of rushing touchdowns. LaDainian's going to get his, and I think Sproles also going to get his.
All right, wide receivers. I like Brandon Stokely going up against his former team in the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're going to be queuing in on Marshall and Royal, so I look for Stokely to get some catches there, possibly 10 to 15 points and maybe a score.
Pick up for me, I'm going to go with Lance Moore. He's a guy who is playing an offense where it's hit or miss, but going up against Atlanta this week, they struggle against the pass, 24 plays of 20-plus yards.
All right, tight end. I got Bo Scaife going up against Jacksonville. It's going to be a tight division game. As Crush stated earlier, Tennessee's got to win one of these games. I think it may be this one. Bo Scaife, I looked at maybe have about 5 or 6 grabs, maybe about 60, 70 yards.
Jeff King, Dante Rosario is out, who is their primary tight end, pass-catching tight end. Jeff King is in. Jake's going to be checking down and trying to get rid of the ball. If Jeff King gets open, look for him to have a halfway decent game.
On the linebackers, I got Brandon Chiller going up against Minnesota. He had a great game against Minnesota in their first meeting. I look for him to do the same.
I also have Brandon Chiller. He's healthy. He was picked up there for a couple weeks. He scored 21 points last time against Minnesota. He flying all over the field. Look for that to happen again.
On to the D-line. I like Broderick Bunkley, the bunk man, going up against the Giants.
For my defensive line, I'm going to pick Amobe Okoye, going up against the Buffalo Bills, who are giving up a ton of sacks. Mario Williams is probably going to see a double team or two, so look for Amobe Okoye to sneak in, maybe get 1.5 sacks, and a couple tackles down there, too.
All right, on to the corners. A guy that had a great game last week had 2 picks. I like Jarris Bird of Buffalo Bills going up against a pretty good team in Houston, but I think they're going to be slinging the ball around, so he might be able to make some plays.
Okay, I'm going to go with Brandon McDonald, who is going against Chicago. Cutler likes to throw the pick. He's a little erratic. Chicago's also probably going to try to run the ball back to their running game, and he's real good at picking up tackles in the running game, so yeah, I like Brandon McDonald.
All right. Safeties. I got Quentin Michael, the Philadelphia Eagles, going up against the Giants. I like NFC East matchup games. They're typically guys show up to play in those games.
For my safety, I took Dashon Goldson off the waiver wire. Went up against Houston last week, and Houston threw the ball over the place. Look for that to happen again. Peyton Manning's going to cut that secondary apart. He's going to have to tackle all those guys to catch the ball from Peyton Manning. So look for a ton of tackles from Dashon Goldson.
Real quick, we're on the kickers and special teams, and once again, my guests don't like to pick kickers and special teams, so I'm just going to throw some guys out there. Jason Elam, Monday night. It's good to have Monday night guys in there. If you look like, you might be a couple points of taking a game, it's good to have a guy on Monday night. He'll be going up against the Saints. And for special teams, there are none. That has been your Beasters and Sleepers. I would like to thank Rush to Crush Money for joining me. And
thanks for having me, man.
You're quite welcome, dude. Miles Austin.